Nia stood in the marble foyer of the mansion she had called home for 8 years, holding an envelope that made her hands shake. The invitation was addressed to Mr. Derek Sterling and guest, in elegant gold lettering. But it was the small note paperclip to it that made her blood run cold. In her husband's assistant's handwriting it read, "Boss, remember to bring someone appropriate this time. The Hendersons are very particular about their guest list." Someone appropriate. 8 years of marriage, and she had never been appropriate enough to stand beside her husband in public. Nia walked slowly to the floor-length mirror in the hallway. She saw a beautiful woman staring back, her dark skin smooth and radiant despite the pain in her eyes. She was 34 years old, wearing a simple blue cotton dress that no one but the housekeeper would ever see. Her natural hair was pulled back in a low bun. She looked like a woman waiting for her life to begin, except her life had been passing by while she waited in this beautiful prison. The mansion was silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock. It was always silent. Derek worked late every night, or so he said. He traveled constantly for business, or so he claimed. And when he was home, he was tired, distant, scrolling through his phone with a slight smile that never reached his eyes when he looked at her. Nia had been making excuses for him for years. She told herself that billionaires had demanding schedules. She convinced herself that his love language was providing for her, giving her this house, the cars, the credit cards with no limits. She had buried her doubts under layers of rationalization because facing the truth was too painful. But standing there with that invitation and that note, she could no longer hide from reality. She thought back to the beginning. Derek had swept into her life like a storm. She was teaching 3rd grade at an inner-city school, volunteering at weekend literacy programs. He attended one of those programs as a corporate sponsor, and he had been captivated by her passion, her intelligence, her beauty. He pursued her with an intensity that felt like love. The courtship was a whirlwind. Expensive dinners at private restaurants. Weekend getaways to his vacation homes. He proposed after 3 months, married her 2 months later. She thought she had found her fairy tale. Then the isolation began. Slowly. So slowly she barely noticed. First, he suggested she take a break from teaching. The school was in a rough neighborhood, he said. He worried about her safety. She could do so much more with her education degree if she worked for his foundation instead. But the foundation job never materialized. He was too busy to finalize the details. Then her friends became a problem. They did not understand his world, he explained. They made her feel bad about her new life, he observed. Would it not be easier to create some distance? Just temporarily. She could reconnect with them later when things settled down. Her family was next. Her mother's comments about Derek being controlling were just jealousy, he insisted. Her sister's questions about why they never saw her anymore were intrusive. He could provide everything she needed. Why did she need anyone else? Year by year, piece by piece, Nia had let him strip away everything that made her who she was. And she had let it happen because she believed his lies. She thought he was protecting her. She thought his possessiveness meant he loved her too much to share her with the world. But the truth was uglier and simpler. He was ashamed of her. Nia walked to Derek's home office, a room she rarely entered. Her heart pounded as she sat at his desk and opened his laptop. She knew his password. He had never bothered to hide it because he never thought she would look. The emails loaded slowly. She scrolled through months of correspondence, her stomach churning with each new discovery. There were the party invitations, dozens of them, all marked attending in his calendar. Charity galas, business dinners, award ceremonies, society events. He went to all of them. Just never with her. She found the photos next. Social media posts from other attendees, tagged locations and dates. There was Derek at the Cancer Research Benefit in a sharp gray suit. Derek at the Tech Innovation Awards. Derek at the museum fundraiser. Always smiling, always polished, always with the same woman by his side. Simone Pritchard. Blonde, thin, pale. His business associate. She appeared in photo after photo, her hand on his arm, her head tilted toward him as they laughed at some private joke. In every picture they looked like a couple. They looked like how Nia had imagined she and Derek would look together. Nia's vision blurred with tears, but she kept searching. She found hotel receipts. Jewelry purchases that she had never received. Text messages that made her sick to read. Last night was perfect. I hate pretending we're just colleagues. That was from Simone, dated 3 months ago. Soon, baby. Just need to handle things carefully. Derek's response. Handle things carefully. Thanks. He meant her. Nia was the thing that needed to be handled. She sat back in the leather chair, her whole body numb. 8 years. He had been living a double life for 8 years, and she had been too naive, too trusting, too desperate to believe in their marriage to see it. The front door opened. Derek's footsteps echoed through the foyer. "Nia? Are you home?" She closed the laptop carefully and stood up. Her legs felt weak, but she forced herself to walk out of the office with her head high. Derek stood in the hallway loosening his tie. He was handsome, she supposed. Tall, fit, with brown hair graying at the temples. He had the kind of confidence that came from old money and newer success. He smiled when he saw her, the same polite smile he had been giving her for years. Not the warm, genuine smile she saw in those photos with Simone. "Hey, how was your day?" he asked. Nia looked at him and saw a stranger. This man had stolen 8 years of her life. He had isolated her, diminished her, hidden her away like a shameful secret. And he stood there asking about her day as if he cared, as if he had not spent his afternoon planning his next evening out with his mistress. "Fine," she said quietly. "How was yours?" "Exhausting. Big meeting with investors. I need to shower and get some sleep." He walked past her toward the stairs. He did not kiss her. He rarely did anymore. She watched him go, this man she had loved, this man she had given up everything for. And in that moment, Nia made a decision. She would not confront him. She would not cry or beg or try to fix what was broken beyond repair. She would not give him the satisfaction of seeing her fall apart. Instead, she would plan. She would be smart, careful, patient. She would gather evidence, protect herself financially, and build an exit strategy. And when the time was right, when she was ready, she would walk out of this golden cage and into a life he could never touch. Derek thought he had handled things carefully. He thought she was too dependent, too isolated, too broken to do anything about his betrayal. He was wrong. Nia walked back to the office and opened the laptop again. This time she started taking screenshots. This time she was gathering ammunition. The invisible wife was about to become very visible indeed. And Derek Sterling was going to learn that the woman he had underestimated was far stronger than he ever imagined. Nia could not sleep that night. She lay beside Derek, listening to his steady breathing, wondering how she had become this person. The woman who accepted being hidden. The woman who made herself smaller and smaller until she almost disappeared. She remembered the day they met with painful clarity. It was a Saturday morning in October, 6 years ago. She had been coordinating a reading program at the community center in South Philadelphia. Children ages 6 to 12 came every weekend to work on their literacy skills. Nia loved those mornings. She loved watching kids who struggled with reading suddenly break through and discover the joy of stories. Derek had shown up that day as part of a corporate social responsibility initiative. His company was donating books and computers to the program. She noticed him immediately. Everyone did. He wore casual clothes, jeans and a green button-down shirt, but he carried himself with an air of wealth and power that could not be hidden. Most corporate donors took photos and left. Derek stayed. He sat with the kids, asked questions about the program, listened to Nia explain her teaching methods. His attention was intense, focused. When he looked at her, she felt seen in a way she had not experienced before. "You're incredible at this," he told her during a break. "These kids respond to you like you're speaking their language." "I am speaking their language," Nia replied with a smile. "I grew up 3 blocks from here. I was one of these kids once." "Tell me more," he said. And he actually wanted to know. They talked for an hour after the program ended. He asked about her childhood, her family, her decision to become a teacher. He told her about his business, his foundation, his plans to expand youth education programs. He seemed genuinely interested in making a difference, not just writing checks for tax deductions. "Can I take you to dinner?" he asked as they walked to the parking lot. "I'd love to continue this conversation." She should have seen the red flags then. The way he insisted on picking the restaurant. The way he waved off her suggestion of a casual spot in her neighborhood. The way he took her to an expensive steakhouse in Center City where she was the only black woman in the entire dining room besides the hostess. But she had been flattered. This successful, handsome man wanted to spend time with her. He called her beautiful, intelligent, inspiring. After years of dating men who did not appreciate her dedication to teaching or her refusal to play games, Derek felt like a gift. The courtship moved fast. Too fast looking back. He texted her every morning with sweet messages. He sent flowers to her classroom. He showed up at the school to take her to lunch, driving his Mercedes into the teacher parking lot like it belonged there. Her colleagues noticed. Her principal pulled her aside after 2 weeks. "Be careful with that one," Mrs. Robinson said gently. She was an older black woman who had been teaching for 30 years. "Men like that, they want to own things. Beautiful things. You're not a thing, Nia." You're a person with your own light. Nia had laughed it off. Mrs. Robinson did not understand. Derek was different. He supported her work. He asked about her students. He donated $10,000 to the school library in her name. The proposal came fast. 3 months after they met, Derek took her to his beach house in Cape May. It was a cold December evening, the ocean gray and rough. He made dinner himself, poured expensive wine, and then dropped to one knee on the deck overlooking the water. Nia, you've changed my life, he said. Before I met you, I was just going through the motions. Building wealth, growing companies, but never feeling connected to anything real. You're real. Your passion, your purpose, your beauty. I want to build a life with you. Marry me. The ring was enormous. A 3-carat diamond that caught the last light of sunset. Nia's hands shook as he slid it onto her finger. Yes, she whispered. Because she loved him. Or she thought she did. Or maybe she just loved the way he made her feel when he looked at her like she was the most precious thing in his world. They married 2 months later. A small ceremony at City Hall because Derek said big weddings were wasteful and he wanted to start their life together immediately. Nia's mother objected. Why the rush? Her mother asked the night before the wedding. Baby, you barely know this man. I know him enough, Mama. He loves me. He wants to take care of me. Taking care of someone and controlling them can look the same at first, her mother said quietly. Just promise me you'll keep your own money, your own career, your own identity. Nia had promised. But promises are easy to break when they happen slowly, one small compromise at a time. The first compromise came 3 weeks into the marriage. They were having dinner at the mansion when Derek brought it up casually. I've been thinking about your commute, he said. It's an hour each way to that school. You leave at 6 in the morning and don't get home until 5. That's 11 hours of your day. I love teaching, Nia said carefully. Those kids need consistency. Of course. But imagine how much more you could do if you worked for my foundation. You could develop programs that reach thousands of kids instead of 30. You could set your own hours, work from home some days. We could actually have breakfast together. It sounded reasonable. It sounded like he wanted to spend more time with her. So she said she would think about it. He brought it up again 2 days later. And 3 days after that. Each time with a new angle. The school was in a dangerous neighborhood. She was too talented to limit herself to one classroom. She was exhausted all the time. Did she not want to start a family soon? How could she be a good mother if she was working 60-hour weeks? She quit teaching in March. The principal tried to talk her out of it. Mrs. Robinson actually cried. Her students made her cards begging her to stay. But Derek was her husband and he was offering her the world. The foundation job never happened. There were always reasons. The position needed to be restructured. They were still securing funding for that division. It would happen soon, he promised. In the meantime, why did she not relax? Enjoy the life he had given her? Her friends were next. Tasha, her college roommate and best friend, started getting screened out by the housekeeper. Derek would make plans for them on nights Tasha suggested getting together. He would bring up past conversations where Tasha had supposedly said things that hurt Nia's feelings. She told you that your job was too important to give up, Derek mentioned one evening. She basically said you made a mistake marrying me. She was just worried, Nia defended. She's my best friend. Best friends support your decisions. They don't make you feel guilty for choosing happiness. Slowly, Nia stopped calling Tasha. It was easier than dealing with Derek's subtle disapproval. Easier than defending her choices over and over. Easier to let the friendship fade than to examine why she felt the need to defend herself in the first place. Her family became complicated too. Her mother's questions. Her sister's concerns. Derek positioned himself as the protector, shielding Nia from their judgment and negativity. Sunday dinners became monthly visits, became holiday-only appearances. By the end of year 1, Nia's world had shrunk to the size of their mansion. She had no job, few friends, and limited family contact. She told herself it was temporary. She told herself Derek was helping her transition to a different kind of life. She told herself that marriage required sacrifice and compromise. But late at night, in the dark, she sometimes felt like she was disappearing. Like she was becoming a ghost in her own life. A beautiful ghost in a beautiful house, but a ghost nonetheless. And Derek seemed perfectly happy with that arrangement. The morning after finding the invitation, Nia woke up with a strange sense of calm. The initial shock had passed. Now came the careful work of understanding exactly what she was dealing with. Derek left for the office at 7, kissing her forehead absently like he always did. The gesture that once made her feel cherished now felt like an insult. She watched him drive away in his black Jaguar, then immediately went back to his office. She spent 5 hours going through every file, every folder, every hidden corner of his digital life. What she found painted a picture that was somehow worse than she had imagined. Simone Pritchard was not just a mistress. She was Derek's public partner in every way that mattered. She had been by his side for at least 4 years, maybe longer. There were hundreds of photos. Business conferences where Simone wore elegant suits and stood beside Derek during panel discussions. Charity events where she wore designer gowns and held his arm. Weekend trips to Napa, Boston, Chicago, always staying at luxury hotels, always photographed looking happy and comfortable together. Nia printed the most damning photos and organized them by date. She created a timeline on her laptop, noting every event, every trip, every public appearance. The pattern was clear. While Nia stayed home, hidden and isolated, Simone lived the life of Derek's partner. The financial records told another story. Derek had been generous with Simone. A condo in Rittenhouse Square, paid for in cash. Monthly deposits into her account, ranging from $5,000 to $10,000. Jewelry purchases from Cartier and Tiffany. Shopping sprees at Nordstrom and Saks. Derek was not just having an affair. He was funding an entire second household. Nia calculated the numbers. Over 4 years, he had spent close to $700,000 on Simone. Meanwhile, Nia's credit cards were monitored. Derek reviewed the statements every month, asking questions about any purchase over $500. He told her it was about managing their finances responsibly. Now she understood it was about control. The emails were hardest to read. Not because they were explicit, though some were, but because they revealed an emotional intimacy that Derek had never shown Nia. He wrote to Simone about his fears, his insecurities, his dreams. He asked her opinion on business decisions. He sent her articles he found interesting and wanted to discuss. He called her my love, and my partner, and the person who truly understands me. Nia had spent 8 years believing she was Derek's partner. But she had only been his wife in the legal sense. Simone was his actual partner in every way that mattered. One email from 6 months ago stood out. I know this situation is not fair to you. You deserve to be with someone who can claim you publicly. But my marriage is complicated. Nia is fragile. She has no career, no real friends anymore, no support system outside of me. If I leave her now, I don't know what she would do. I need to handle this carefully. Please be patient. I'll figure out a way forward that doesn't destroy her completely. I love you. Nia read those words 3 times. She felt anger rising in her chest like fire. Fragile. He thought she was fragile. He had systematically destroyed her career, her friendships, her independence, and now he used that destruction as an excuse to keep lying to her. And he loved Simone. He told her he loved her. Nia could not remember the last time Derek had said those words to her. She dug deeper into Simone's background. LinkedIn showed a woman with an MBA from Columbia, work experience at several major firms, and currently listed as Vice President of Strategic Development at Sterling Industries. Derek's company. He had given her a job, a title, a career. Everything he had taken from Nia. The cruelty of it took her breath away. He had offered Simone the world while locking Nia away. And he justified it by convincing himself that Nia could not handle the truth, that she was too weak, too dependent, too broken. Nia saved everything to a secure cloud account. She created backups of the backups. This evidence would be crucial for the divorce, but more than that, it would be her shield. Derek had power, money, and connections. She needed proof of his betrayal to protect herself from whatever he might try to do when this ended. Her phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Working late tonight. Don't wait up. She almost laughed. Working late. Right. She checked his calendar. There was an event tonight at the Kimmel Center. A classical music benefit. On social media she found the guest list. Derek Sterling and Simone Pritchard were listed as corporate sponsors. Nia looked at herself in the mirror. She was still wearing pajamas at 2 in the afternoon. Her hair was wrapped in a scarf. She looked exactly like the fragile, dependent woman Derek thought she was. But inside she felt something new stirring. Not quite anger, though there was plenty of that. Not quite pain, though the wound was deep. It was determination. Cold, calculated determination. Derek had underestimated her. He thought she was too weak to survive without him. He thought she had nowhere to go, no one to turn to, nothing to offer the world beyond being his hidden wife. He was wrong. Nia had a teaching degree from Temple University, where she graduated summa cum laude. She had 5 years of classroom experience before Derek convinced her to quit. She had student loan debt paid off, money in savings from before the marriage, and legally she was entitled to half of everything Derek had acquired during their time together. She also had rage. Pure, focused rage that burned away the fog of denial she had been living in. Derek wanted to handle things carefully? Fine. Nia could be careful too. She could be patient. She could smile and play the role of the obedient wife while she built her escape plan brick by brick. And when she was ready, when she had everything lined up perfectly, she would show Derek Sterling exactly how fragile she was not. She picked up her phone and scrolled to a number she had not called in 2 years. Tasha. Her best friend who she had abandoned because Derek made it too difficult to maintain the relationship. Her finger hovered over the call button. Pride and shame battled in her chest. What would she even say? Sorry I disappeared because my husband isolated me and I was too blind to see it happening? But she pressed call anyway. Because the first step to rebuilding her life was reaching out to the people she had lost. The phone rang twice before Tasha answered. Nia? Her voice was cautious, surprised. Is everything okay? Nia closed her eyes. No, everything is not okay. But it's going to be. Tasha, I need help. And I need to explain some things. Do you have time to meet? There was a pause. Then Tasha's voice came back warmer, concerned. For you? Always. Tell me when and where. Nia felt tears sting her eyes, but they were different tears than the ones she had cried yesterday. These were tears of relief, of hope, of the first step toward freedom. Tomorrow, she said. Let's meet tomorrow. Nia met Tasha at a small cafe in West Philadelphia, far from the suburbs where Derek's connections ran deep. She had not been to this neighborhood in years. Seeing the familiar streets, the row houses, the corner stores, felt like remembering a language she used to speak fluently. Tasha was already there when Nia arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee. She stood when she saw Nia, and for a moment they just looked at each other. Then Tasha opened her arms and Nia walked into the hug she had been missing for 2 years. I'm sorry, Nia whispered. I'm so sorry I disappeared. Sure. We'll talk about it. Sit down. They sat across from each other, and Tasha studied Nia's face with the intensity of someone who knew how to see past surfaces. You look different, Tasha said carefully. Thinner. Sadder. What's going on? Nia had rehearsed what she would say. She had planned to ease into it, to explain gradually. But sitting across from her best friend, she found the words tumbling out raw and unfiltered. Derek's been cheating on me. For years. He has a whole other life with another woman. He takes her to all the events he never takes me to. He introduced her as his business partner while I stay home alone. And I was so stupid, Tasha. I believed every lie. I gave up everything for him, and he's been ashamed of me the entire time. Tasha's expression shifted from concern to anger. That son of a... Wait, there's more. Nia pulled out her phone and showed Tasha some of the photos she had saved. The timeline. The financial records. The emails. Tasha scrolled through everything, her jaw tight. When she looked up, her eyes were blazing. Nia, this man isolated you on purpose. This is not just cheating. This is abuse. Financial abuse, emotional abuse. He cut you off from everyone who cared about you and made you dependent on him. Hearing it said out loud in those exact words made something click in Nia's mind. Abuse? She had not thought of it that way. Derek had never hit her, never screamed at her. But he had systematically destroyed her autonomy and convinced her it was love. I know, Nia said quietly. I see it now. And I need to get out. But I need to do it smart. Derek has money, power, lawyers. If I just leave, he'll crush me. I need a plan. Tasha reached across the table and gripped Nia's hand. Okay, then let's make a plan. What do you need? A lawyer. A good one who handles high-net divorces and won't be intimidated by Derek's legal team. I know someone, Tasha said immediately. Patricia Monroe. She handled my cousin's divorce from her executive husband. Patricia doesn't play games and she's expensive, but she's worth every penny. I can pay, Nia said. I have money saved from before the marriage. Derek doesn't know about it because it's in an old account I never closed. Smart. What else? I need to document everything. Not just the affair but all the ways he controlled me. The isolation. The financial monitoring. Every time he stopped me from working or seeing friends or making my own decisions. Write it all down, Tasha advised. Keep a journal with dates and details. Save every email, every text, every receipt. Build an ironclad case. Nia nodded. I also need somewhere to go. Eventually. When I'm ready to leave. You can stay with me, Tasha offered without hesitation. My apartment is small, but you're welcome there for as long as you need. Nia felt tears welling up again. You're still willing to help me after I cut you out of my life? Girl, you didn't cut me out. You did. I watched it happen and I tried to reach you, but he built walls around you so high I couldn't climb them. I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know how bad it was. Tasha squeezed her hand harder. But you're reaching out now. You're fighting back. That takes courage. They talked for 2 more hours. Tasha helped Nia outline a strategy. Contact the lawyer this week. Continue documenting everything. Open a new bank account that Derek did not know about. Start redirecting small amounts of money into it. Research her legal rights regarding marital assets. Most importantly, don't confront Derek until everything was in place. You get one shot at this, Tasha warned. Once he knows you're leaving, he'll try to control the narrative and protect his assets. You need to strike when you're ready, not before. Nia understood. This was not about anger or revenge, though she felt plenty of both. This was about survival. About reclaiming her life and her future. Before they left, Tasha asked one more question. What do you want? After this is over, when you're free, what do you actually want? Nia thought about it. For so long, her wants had been tied to Derek. She wanted him to love her. She wanted him to be proud of her. She wanted him to stop hiding her. All her desires had centered on winning his approval. I want my own life, she said finally. I want to teach again. Or maybe do something bigger with education. Start a program, help kids who need it. I want friends, real friends who I don't have to ask permission to see. I want to wake up in the morning and feel excited about my day instead of empty. I want to matter again. Tasha smiled. You always mattered, Nia. Derek just convinced you that you didn't. But you're going to get all of that back. I promise you. They hugged goodbye in the parking lot. Nia drove home feeling lighter than she had in months. Yes, her marriage was over. Yes, the man she loved had betrayed her in the worst possible way. But she was not alone. She had Tasha. She had a plan. She had hope. When she got back to the mansion, Derek still was not home. His text said he would be at the office until midnight. More lies. But Nia did not care anymore. Let him spend his evening with Simone. Let him think he was getting away with everything. She went to the guest room, opened her laptop, and started writing. She wrote down every memory she could recall of Derek's manipulation. The subtle comments that made her doubt herself. The ways he discouraged her from working. The guilt trips when she tried to see friends. The monitoring of her spending. The times he made decisions for her without asking. Page after page filled with evidence of emotional abuse. By the time she finished, it was 3 in the morning and she had written 15 single-spaced pages. She saved the document with a password, backed it up to the cloud, and then sent a copy to Tasha's email for safekeeping. Tomorrow she would call Patricia Monroe. Tomorrow she would start the legal process. Tomorrow she would take the first official step toward freedom. But tonight, for the first time in 8 years, Nia went to sleep feeling powerful. Derek thought he had broken her. He thought she was too fragile, too dependent, too defeated to fight back. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Patricia Monroe's office was in downtown Philadelphia, occupying the entire 20th floor of a glass tower. Nia felt nervous walking through the marble lobby, taking the elevator up, announcing herself to the receptionist. This was real now. She was actually doing this. The receptionist led her to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Patricia stood when Nia entered. She was a black woman in her 50s, wearing a sharp red suit and an expression that said she did not tolerate nonsense. Mrs. Sterling, Patricia said, shaking Nia's hand firmly. Tasha told me a bit about your situation. Please, sit down and tell me everything. Nia spent an hour laying out the details. Patricia took notes, asked pointed questions, and never once looked shocked or surprised. She had clearly heard similar stories before. Your husband is a classic case, Patricia said when Nia finished. Wealthy man, younger wife, systematic isolation disguised as protection. The affair is almost secondary to the pattern of control. She leaned forward. Here's what you need to understand, Nia. Pennsylvania is an equitable distribution state, which means marital assets are divided fairly, though not necessarily equally. You've been married 8 years. During that time, Derek's net worth has grown substantially. You're entitled to a significant portion of that growth. How much? Nia asked. That depends on what we can prove. If we can show that his affair has been long-term and that he's been using marital funds to support his mistress, that strengthens your case considerably. The financial abuse, the isolation, the emotional manipulation. All of that matters too. Patricia pulled up a document on her computer. Based on what you've told me about his business holdings, real estate, and investments, I estimate his current net worth is somewhere between $50 and $70 million. In a case like this, you could reasonably expect a settlement in the range of 10 to 20 million, plus ongoing support. Nia's head spun. She had known Derek was wealthy, but seeing the numbers laid out was staggering. I can't afford a lawyer who handles cases like this, Nia admitted. I have about 80,000 saved in my old account. I work on contingency for cases with strong evidence like yours, Patricia replied. You pay me nothing up front. When we win the settlement, I take 30%. If we lose, you owe me nothing. But Nia, I don't lose. They spent another hour discussing strategy. Patricia wanted copies of everything Nia had gathered. She also wanted Nia to continue living normally, not tipping Derek off that anything had changed. This will take time, Patricia warned. Maybe 6 months, maybe a year. Can you handle staying in that house, pretending everything is fine while we build the case? Nia thought about it. Could she face Derek every day knowing what she knew? Could she smile and play the role of his wife while planning her exit? Yes, she said firmly. I can do whatever it takes. Good. Because he's going to fight dirty once he realizes what's happening. Men like Derek hate losing control. He'll try to paint you as unstable, as a gold digger, as someone who contributed nothing to the marriage. We need to be ready for that. Patricia handed Nia a business card. Call me anytime, day or night. Check in once a week with updates. And Nia? Start thinking about what you want your life to look like after this. Not just financially but personally. What do you want to do? Where do you want to live? Who do you want to be? Nia left the office feeling both terrified and energized. She had crossed a line. There was no going back now. Over the next few weeks, Nia fell into a strange routine. During the day while Derek was at work, she documented evidence, communicated with Patricia, and slowly began reclaiming pieces of herself. She started reading again, something she had stopped doing years ago. She went for long walks around the neighborhood, remembering what it felt like to move through the world freely. At night, she played her role. She made dinner, though Derek rarely ate with her. She asked about his day, though he rarely gave real answers. She existed in the margins of his life, invisible and unimportant. But she did not feel invisible anymore. She felt like a woman gathering her strength for battle. Tasha invited her to volunteer at an after-school program she ran through her nonprofit. It was in North Philadelphia, serving kids from low-income families. Nia jumped at the chance. Tell Derek you're taking a yoga class or something, Tasha suggested. 3 hours a week. He'll barely notice. She was right. When Nia mentioned she wanted to start a wellness routine, Derek nodded absently and went back to his phone. The after-school program changed everything. Nia worked with middle schoolers who needed help with reading comprehension and essay writing. She remembered how to connect with students, how to break down complex ideas, how to make learning feel accessible and exciting. One student, a 12-year-old girl named Brianna, struggled with confidence. She was brilliant but convinced she was stupid because she read slowly. You're not stupid, Nia told her gently. Your brain just processes information differently. That doesn't make you less intelligent. Some of the smartest people in history were slow readers. Really? Brianna looked skeptical. Really? Albert Einstein, Agatha Christie, Steven Spielberg. All dyslexic. All geniuses. You just need strategies that work for your brain, not someone else's. They worked together for weeks. Nia taught Brianna techniques for breaking down text, using audiobooks alongside written material, taking notes in a way that made sense to her. Slowly, Brianna's confidence grew. Her grades improved. And one day she gave Nia a drawing she had made. It showed a woman with dark skin and a bright smile, surrounded by books and students. At the top, in Brianna's careful handwriting, it said, Miss Nia, the teacher who sees me. Nia cried in her car after that session, because she realized something crucial. Derek had taken her career from her. He had convinced her that teaching was small, that she could do more. But teaching was not small. It was everything. It was changing lives one student at a time. And she was good at it. She mattered to these kids in a way she had never mattered to Derek. Tasha noticed the change in her. You're smiling again, she observed one evening as they grabbed coffee after the program. It's good to see. I forgot how much I love this, Nia admitted. I forgot that I'm actually good at something. Derek made me feel like I had nothing to offer. That was his goal, Tasha said bluntly. Keep you feeling worthless so you'd never leave. But look at you now. You're helping kids, building your case, getting stronger every day. You're not the woman he married anymore. Nia thought about that. She was not the same woman. That woman had been naive, trusting, desperate to be loved. This woman was wiser, harder, more careful with her heart. She had been forged in pain and she was emerging stronger for it. At home, Derek remained oblivious. He barely noticed her new schedule or her improved mood. He was too busy with work, with Simone, with his double life. Sometimes Nia watched him and wondered if he ever felt guilty. Did he think about what he had stolen from her? Did he care? Probably not. Men like Derek justified their actions by rewriting the story. He probably told himself that Nia was happy in her comfortable life, that he was doing her a favor by shielding her from the pressures of his world. He probably believed his own lies. But Nia did not care what he believed anymore. She was not trying to change his mind or win his love. She was simply preparing to leave. And every day she got a little closer to freedom. 3 months into her exit planning, Nia sat in Patricia's office reviewing financial documents. They had built a comprehensive case. Patricia had hired a forensic accountant who traced every dollar Derek had spent on Simone. The numbers were damning. "This is good," Patricia said, tapping the papers. "Very good. But I want to suggest something additional." "What?" "Start building your own professional identity again. Not just volunteering, though that's important. I mean something concrete. A business, a non-profit, something that shows you're not the dependent housewife Derek will try to portray you as." Nia had been thinking about this. The after-school program had reignited her passion for education, but it had also shown her the gaps in available services. So many kids needed help and there were not enough programs to serve them. "I've been thinking about starting a literacy foundation," Nia said slowly. "Something focused specifically on students from marginalized communities. One-on-one tutoring, after-school programs, teacher training. But I have no idea how to actually do that." "You have 8 million reasons to learn," Patricia replied with a slight smile. "That's the low end of what I think your settlement will be. Even if you set aside half for taxes and living expenses, that leaves $4 million to invest in something meaningful." The number still stunned Nia. $4 million. She could live comfortably for the rest of her life. Or she could build something that mattered. "Talk to Tasha," Patricia advised. "She runs a nonprofit. She can walk you through the process. And start now while you're still married. Establish the foundation as your separate property. It'll make you look independent and motivated, which helps our case." Over the next few weeks, Nia threw herself into research. She learned about 501c3 applications, board structures, funding sources, program development. It was overwhelming and exciting in equal measure. Tasha helped her every step of the way. They met several times a week, often over dinner at Tasha's apartment. It felt like college again, staying up late working on projects, fueled by coffee and determination. "What are you going to call it?" Tasha asked one evening as they worked on the mission statement. Nia had thought about this. She wanted something that captured her vision, something meaningful but not pretentious. "The Bridges Foundation," she said. "Because education is a bridge. It connects kids to opportunities. It bridges gaps in society. It helps people cross from one life to another." "I love it," Tasha said. "The Bridges Foundation. Building pathways to success through literacy. That works." They filed the paperwork in Nia's name only, using her old bank account for the initial fees. It was crucial that Derek not know about this until after the divorce. Patricia wanted to present Nia as someone who had been rebuilding her independence all along, someone who was not asking for money because she needed it but because she deserved it. The foundation became Nia's secret obsession. She worked on it during the day while Derek was at the office. She developed program models, created budget projections, researched best practices in literacy education. She reached out to former colleagues from her teaching days, reconnecting with people she had lost touch with. One of those people was Dr. Raymond Foster, her former professor from Temple University. He had been her mentor during her student teaching and had written her recommendation letters for her first job. She had not spoken to him in 6 years. "Nia," he said warmly when she called. "I've wondered about you. How are you doing?" She gave him an edited version of her situation. She did not mention Derek's affair or the divorce planning, but she told him about rediscovering her passion for education and wanting to start a foundation. "That's wonderful," Dr. Foster said. "What's your focus?" "Literacy for underserved students. Personalized interventions. I want to train tutors to work one-on-one with kids who are falling behind, using methods tailored to individual learning styles." "That's ambitious. And needed. Have you thought about partnerships? Schools, libraries, community centers." They talked for over an hour. Dr. Foster connected her with other education professionals, suggested research to read, offered to review her program proposals. By the end of the call, Nia felt like she was stepping back into a world she had been exiled from. More connections followed. Her old principal, Mrs. Robinson, was thrilled to hear from her and immediately offered to serve on the foundation's board. Other former colleagues expressed interest in getting involved. Slowly, Nia was rebuilding the professional network Derek had helped her destroy. She worked on the foundation in secret, careful to clear her browser history, to save documents only to her password-protected cloud account. Derek remained oblivious. He had stopped paying attention to her years ago. As long as dinner was ready and the house was clean, he did not care how she spent her days. The irony was not lost on Nia. Derek had isolated her to make her dependent. But that isolation had given her the time and space to build something he could not touch. While he thought she was wasting away in their mansion, she was creating her future. 5 months into her planning, the Bridges Foundation received its 501c3 approval. Nia was officially the founder and executive director of a nonprofit organization. On paper, it had no money and no programs yet. But it had structure, purpose, and potential. Patricia was delighted. This is perfect. This shows initiative, independence, and forward thinking. When we present our case, Derek can't claim you're just after his money. You're building something yourself. Nia met with a financial advisor Patricia recommended. If she received an $8 to $12 million settlement, how should she invest it? The advisor suggested setting aside $3 million for the foundation's endowment, investing $2 million conservatively for personal security, and using the rest for immediate needs like housing and living expenses. The foundation endowment will generate income through investments, the advisor explained. With proper management, $3 million could provide $100,000 to $150,000 per year in sustainable funding. That's enough to run meaningful programs without constantly fundraising. It was becoming real. Nia could see her future taking shape. A foundation that mattered. Financial independence. Freedom to make her own choices. A life built on her own terms. At night, lying beside Derek in their king-size bed, Nia sometimes felt surreal. He had no idea that the woman next to him was planning her escape. He had no idea she had a lawyer, a foundation, a support system. He thought she was still the isolated, dependent woman he had created. His ignorance was her advantage. And she was using every day of it to build her exit plan brick by brick. Soon she thought. Soon she would be ready to leave. And when she did, Derek Sterling would finally understand that the woman he had underestimated was the biggest mistake of his life. 6 months after finding the invitation that changed everything, Nia barely recognized herself. Not physically, though that had changed too, but internally. She had rediscovered the woman she was before Derek, and she had become someone stronger than she had ever been. The after-school program was thriving. Brianna, the student who had struggled with reading, was now reading at grade level and had started a book club at her school. Other students were showing similar progress. Tasha kept telling Nia she was a natural leader, someone who inspired kids to believe in themselves. The Bridges Foundation was growing too, even without funding yet. Nia had assembled a small board of directors, all education professionals who believed in her vision. They met monthly to plan programs, discuss strategy, and prepare for the eventual launch. Dr. Foster had introduced her to a grant writer who offered to help pro bono. They were preparing applications for several major education foundations. "You're going to need to be the public face of this," Tasha warned during one of their planning sessions. "That means speaking at events, networking, being visible." The thought terrified Nia. After 8 years of hiding, stepping into public view felt dangerous. What if Derek found out? What if he tried to sabotage her work? But Patricia reassured her. "You're not doing anything wrong. You're building a career. If he finds out and tries to interfere, that actually helps our case. It shows his controlling behavior." Still, Nia was careful. She used her maiden name for foundation work. She kept her social media private. She attended education conferences and networking events in Philadelphia but avoided anything connected to Derek's business circles. At one conference in early autumn, Nia presented a workshop on individualized literacy interventions. 30 teachers attended and the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Several asked if she offered training or consulting. By the end of the day, Nia had business cards from 2 school districts interested in partnering with the Bridges Foundation. "You were amazing up there," Tasha said afterward. "Confident, knowledgeable, passionate. That's the Nia I remember from college." Driving home, Nia thought about how much had changed. 6 months ago she could barely get out of bed. She felt worthless, invisible, trapped. Now she was presenting at conferences, building a nonprofit, reclaiming her professional identity. The physical transformation happened more gradually. Nia started working out, not to change her appearance but because exercise made her feel strong. She updated her wardrobe, buying clothes in bright colors that made her feel powerful instead of invisible. A vibrant green dress. A royal blue blazer. A deep maroon coat. She cut her hair into a short natural style that framed her face beautifully. The first time she looked in the mirror after the cut, she barely recognized herself. She looked confident. Professional. Free. Derek noticed the changes but misinterpreted them entirely. "You look nice," he commented one evening when she came home from a foundation board meeting. "Special occasion?" "Just taking better care of myself," Nia replied neutrally. He nodded, satisfied with that answer, and went back to his phone. It never occurred to him that she was preparing for life after him. Patricia called with an update. The forensic accountant had finished his report. Derek had spent over $1 million on Simone across 4 years. The evidence was ironclad. "We're ready to file whenever you are," Patricia said. "But I want to wait for the right moment." "Maximum impact." "What does that mean?" Nia asked. "It means we serve him the papers when he's vulnerable. Preferably in a public setting where he can't make a scene. We want witnesses to his initial reaction." Nia understood the strategy, but the thought made her nervous. Filing for divorce would trigger Derek's rage. She needed to be ready for whatever came next. She started looking at apartments. Nothing too expensive, but something nice in a good neighborhood. She wanted to stay in Philadelphia, close to the after-school program and her foundation work. She found a beautiful 2-bedroom condo in Fittler Square, with hardwood floors and large windows that let in plenty of natural light. "I'm not ready to lease it yet," she told the realtor. "But I want to be first in line when I am ready." The realtor, a kind older woman named Janet, seemed to understand without being told. "Honey, I've helped a lot of women in your situation. You take your time. When you're ready, this place will be waiting." November came, bringing cooler weather and the holiday season. Nia received an invitation in the mail, addressed to her personally, not to Derek. It was from the Philadelphia Education Alliance, inviting her to speak at their annual philanthropy gala in December. "We've heard wonderful things about your work with the Bridges Foundation," the letter read. "We would be honored to feature you as one of our spotlighted emerging leaders in education." Nia's hands shook as she read it. This was a major event. Corporate sponsors, wealthy donors, education leaders from across the state. It was exactly the kind of event Derek attended. In fact, looking at the list of past attendees, she saw Sterling Industries listed as a platinum sponsor. She called Patricia immediately. "This is it," Patricia said. "This is your moment. Accept the invitation. Attend the gala. Let Derek see you there, successful and independent. And we'll serve him the divorce papers the next day, while he's still reeling." "What if he makes a scene at the gala?" Nia worried. "Let him. We'll have witnesses. Besides, men like Derek care too much about appearances. He won't risk his reputation by causing drama in public." Nia thought about it. This gala could change everything. It could launch the Bridges Foundation into public awareness. It could show Derek that she was not the broken woman he thought she was. It could be her declaration of independence. "Okay," she said. "I'll do it." She accepted the invitation and immediately started preparing. She would need a speech about her foundation and her vision for education. She would need the perfect outfit, something that communicated power and confidence. She would need to be ready for anything. Tasha helped her write the speech. They worked through multiple drafts, finding the right balance of personal story and professional vision. Nia practiced delivering it over and over until she could do it without notes. For her outfit, Tasha took her shopping. They found a stunning red gown at a boutique in Rittenhouse Square. It was elegant without being overly formal, with a fitted bodice and flowing skirt that moved beautifully. When Nia tried it on, Tasha actually gasped. "That's the one. You look like a queen." Nia stared at her reflection. The woman in the mirror was powerful, beautiful, confident. She looked like someone who had conquered her fears and emerged victorious. She looked like someone Derek would never recognize. 2 weeks before the gala, Nia told Derek she would be attending an education event that evening. She kept it vague, expecting him to barely pay attention. Instead, he looked up from his laptop with mild interest. "Which event?" "The Education Alliance Gala," she said casually. "I've been doing some volunteer work with literacy programs. They invited me to attend." "Ha," Derek said. "I'm going to that. Sterling Industries is a sponsor." Nia's heart stopped, but she kept her face neutral. "Oh, well, I guess I'll see you there." Derek shrugged and went back to his work. "Sure. I'll probably be networking most of the night anyway. He had no idea. No idea that she was a featured speaker. No idea that she had built a foundation. No idea that his invisible wife was about to become very visible indeed. Nia smiled to herself. This was going to be even better than she had imagined. The morning of the gala, Nia woke up with a strange mixture of terror and excitement. Tonight, everything would change. Tonight, she would step out of the shadows Derek had kept her in for 8 years. She spent the day preparing methodically. Hair appointment at 10. Nails at noon. The afternoon she spent reviewing her speech one last time, making sure every word was perfect. Tasha came over at 4 to help her get ready. She brought champagne, though Nia would only have 1 glass. She needed to be completely clear-headed tonight. How are you feeling? Tasha asked as she helped Nia with her makeup. Scared. Ready. Angry. Powerful. Nia laughed nervously. All of it at once. That's normal. You're about to walk into a room full of people who've never seen you before and show them who you really are. That takes courage. The red gown fit perfectly. Tasha had bought her gold earrings to match, simple but elegant. When Nia was fully dressed, she looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. Gone was the invisible wife who hid in the mansion. This woman looked like someone who could change the world. Derek is going to lose his mind, Tasha predicted with satisfaction. Simone too if she's there. She will be, Nia said. She had checked the guest list. Derek Sterling and Simone Pritchard were listed as representing Sterling Industries. The gala was at the Franklin Institute, a beautiful venue in the heart of Philadelphia. Nia arrived 30 minutes early, wanting to get her bearings before guests started arriving. The event coordinator, a efficient woman named Linda, greeted her warmly. Miss Reynolds, she said using Nia's maiden name. We're so excited to have you speaking tonight. Your foundation's work is exactly the kind of innovation we want to highlight. Linda showed her the stage setup, explained the evening schedule, and introduced her to the other featured speakers. 2 were college professors, 1 was a school superintendent. All of them treated Nia as an equal, a peer in the education field. It felt surreal and wonderful. Guests began arriving at 6. Nia positioned herself near the silent auction tables, where she could see people entering but remained slightly out of the main flow. She recognized some faces from Derek's world, wealthy executives and philanthropists she had seen in photos but never met. Then Derek arrived and Nia's breath caught. He looked handsome in his tuxedo, confident and polished. And on his arm was Simone, wearing a black designer gown and diamonds that Derek had probably bought her. They looked like the perfect couple. They looked like everything Nia had thought she and Derek were supposed to be. Derek scanned the room with the ease of someone who belonged everywhere. His gaze passed over Nia without recognition. She was just another guest to him, someone he did not know. Even though they lived in the same house, slept in the same bed, he had looked right at her and not seen her. The pain of that hit harder than she expected. But it also fueled her determination. He thought she was invisible? Fine. Let him keep thinking that for a few more hours. Nia mingled carefully, introducing herself to people who were interested in education reform. She handed out business cards for the Bridges Foundation. She talked about literacy gaps and intervention strategies. She was professional, knowledgeable, and passionate. People responded to her enthusiasm. By the time dinner was announced, Nia had 3 potential donors interested in learning more about her foundation and 2 school principals who wanted to discuss partnerships. Dinner was a multi-course affair. Nia sat at a table with other speakers and board members of the Education Alliance. Derek sat across the room with Simone, surrounded by other corporate sponsors. He never looked in Nia's direction. After dessert, the speeches began. The Education Alliance president spoke first, thanking sponsors and highlighting the evening's honorees. Then came the featured speakers. Nia was third. She watched the 2 speakers before her, both excellent, both passionate about education. Then Linda was introducing her. Our next speaker represents a new generation of education leaders. After years of classroom teaching, she founded the Bridges Foundation to provide personalized literacy interventions for students from underserved communities. Please welcome Nia Reynolds. Nia stood and walked to the podium, her red gown flowing behind her. The stage lights were bright, making it hard to see the audience clearly. Which was good because her hands were shaking. She gripped the podium and began. 8 years ago, I was teaching 3rd grade in North Philadelphia. I had a student named Marcus, though that's not his real name. Marcus was 9 years old and could barely read. He had been passed from grade to grade because schools didn't have the resources to help him. He was smart, creative, funny. But he couldn't decode words, and that made him feel stupid. Nia told the story of working with Marcus, of finding the right approach for his learning style, of watching him transform from a frustrated child who hated school to a confident reader who loved books. She talked about how that experience shaped her understanding of education. "We talk about achievement gaps," she said. "But what we really have are resource gaps. Kids like Marcus don't lack intelligence or motivation. They lack access to individualized support. The Bridges Foundation exists to close that gap." She outlined her vision: one-on-one tutoring, teacher training, parent education, community partnerships, all focused on the simple truth that every child can learn if given the right tools and support. Education is not about standardized tests or one-size-fits-all solutions, Nia concluded. It's about seeing each student as an individual, understanding their unique needs, and building bridges to help them succeed. That's what I'm committed to doing. That's what the Bridges Foundation represents. Thank you. The applause was warm and genuine. People stood. Nia walked back to her table, her heart pounding, and as her eyes adjusted to the normal lighting, she looked across the room. Derek was staring at her, his face pale with shock. Simone was whispering something to him urgently. He shook his head slightly like he was trying to clear his vision. He had finally seen her. And he was absolutely horrified. Nia sat down, accepted congratulations from her table mates, and allowed herself a small smile. This was just the beginning. During the networking portion of the evening, people approached Nia constantly. They wanted to know more about her foundation. They wanted to discuss partnerships. They wanted to donate. She collected business cards and scheduled follow-up meetings and felt like she was building something real. Across the room, she could see Derek trying to excuse himself from conversations, making his way toward her. But every time he got close, someone else stopped Nia to talk. Finally, he waited at the edge of a small group surrounding her. When the group dispersed, Derek stepped forward. "Nia," he said quietly. His voice was tight with controlled anger. "What are you doing here?" She looked at him calmly. "I was invited to speak." "What are you doing here?" "I'm a sponsor. I told you I was coming." His eyes darted around, checking who was listening. "Why didn't you tell me you were speaking?" "You didn't ask," Nia replied simply. "You said you'd be networking. I assumed you wouldn't notice I was here." "A foundation? You started a foundation?" His voice was still quiet but strained. "When did this happen?" "I've been working on it for months. It's been very fulfilling." Simone appeared at Derek's side, her expression carefully neutral but her eyes assessing Nia with barely concealed hostility. "Derek, we should go," Simone said, touching his arm possessively. "Early meeting tomorrow." Nia met Simone's eyes directly. This was the woman who had been living the life that should have been hers. But looking at her now, Nia felt nothing but pity. Simone was welcome to Derek. They deserved each other. "Nice to meet you," Nia said to Simone with a polite smile. "Derek, I'll see you at home." She walked away before he could respond, joining a conversation with a school superintendent who wanted to discuss curriculum development. Derek and Simone left shortly after. Nia saw them go, Derek's hand on Simone's back, both of them talking in low, urgent tones. Let him panic, Nia thought. Let him wonder what else she had been hiding. Let him realize that he had no idea who she really was anymore. The evening ended around 10. Nia gathered her things, said goodbye to new connections, and walked out to her car with Tasha, who had arrived near the end to support her. "You were incredible," Tasha said, hugging her tight. "That speech was perfect. And did you see Derek's face? He looked like he'd seen a ghost." "He kind of did," Nia replied. "He saw the woman he tried to erase. And she's alive and thriving." They drove back to Tasha's apartment, where Nia planned to spend the night. No way was she going back to that mansion tonight. Derek would be waiting with questions, accusations, demands for explanations. But she was done explaining herself to him. Tomorrow, Patricia would serve him divorce papers at his office. And Nia would finally officially be free. Nia woke up the next morning on Tasha's couch, sunlight streaming through the windows. For a moment she felt disoriented, then she remembered. The gala. Her speech. Derek's shocked face. Her phone showed 17 missed calls from Derek and twice as many texts. She scrolled through them, watching his tone escalate from confused to angry to desperate. "Where are you? We need to talk. Nia, this is ridiculous. Come home. I don't understand what's happening. Whatever you think you're doing, we can discuss it like adults." The final text, sent at 3 in the morning. "I know you're with Tasha. This is childish. Come home now." Nia deleted the messages without responding. Patricia had been clear. No communication until after the papers were served. At 9 that morning, Nia's phone rang. Patricia. It's done, Patricia said. My process server handed him the papers 10 minutes ago at his office. Apparently he went white as a sheet and had to sit down. Good, Nia said firmly. He'll call you. Don't answer. Let him stew. Let him panic. We want him off balance when we sit down to negotiate. What happens now? Now he gets his lawyer, we have initial discussions, and we start settlement negotiations. This could take a few months or it could take a year, depending on how difficult he wants to be. But Nia, we have an excellent case. The evidence of his affair, the financial abuse, your rebuilding of your career, it all supports your claim for a substantial settlement. Okay, Nia said. I'm ready. She was. After 8 years of being controlled, manipulated, hidden, she was finally taking control of her own life. Derek called 30 times that day. Nia did not answer once. He showed up at Tasha's apartment building that evening, but the doorman would not let him up without Tasha's permission, which she obviously did not give. He's threatening to call the police, the doorman reported over the intercom. Tell him to go ahead, Tasha replied. She's not his prisoner. Derek eventually left. But his lawyer reached out to Patricia the next morning, requesting an urgent meeting. They want to settle quickly, Patricia told Nia. That's good. It means they know their case is weak. The first settlement offer came 3 days later. $2 million in the house. Patricia laughed when she read it. Insulting. We're countering with $15 million, full equity in the marital home, and continued health insurance. Will we get that? Nia asked. We'll probably settle somewhere around 10 to 12 million. Which is what you deserve. The negotiations dragged on for weeks. Derek's lawyer tried every tactic. They claimed Nia had contributed nothing to the marriage. They suggested she was mentally unstable. They implied she had been planning this for years to take his money. Patricia demolished every argument. She presented the forensic accounting showing Derek's expenditures on Simone. She showed the timeline of Nia's systematic isolation. She provided testimony from Tasha and Dr. Foster about Nia's professional work and foundation building. Most damaging was the evidence of Derek's own words. In emails and texts to Simone, he had referred to Nia as fragile, dependent, and unable to cope without me. Patricia used his own manipulation against him, showing that he had deliberately kept Nia dependent to maintain control. Your client destroyed my client's career, isolated her from friends and family, and conducted a 4-year affair while gaslighting her about his whereabouts, Patricia said in one negotiation session, her voice sharp as a blade. Mr. Sterling created the very dependency he now wants to use against her. That's not going to fly. Meanwhile, Nia's life was blossoming. The Bridges Foundation received its first major grant, a $50,000 award from an education nonprofit. With that seed money, Nia launched her first official program, a pilot tutoring initiative at 3 elementary schools in North Philadelphia. She hired 2 part-time tutors and trained them in her methods. She developed curriculum materials. She met with teachers and principals. She threw herself into the work with a passion she had forgotten she possessed. News coverage of her gala speech led to more invitations. She spoke at a Rotary Club luncheon. She was interviewed for a local education podcast. She wrote an op-ed for the Philadelphia Inquirer about resource gaps in urban schools. Each appearance made her more visible, more confident, more certain that she was on the right path. Derek, meanwhile, was falling apart. His affair with Simone became semi-public knowledge after the divorce filing. Business partners started asking questions. Some questioned his judgment. A few cut ties with Sterling Industries entirely. Simone herself disappeared from public events after the divorce news broke. Nia heard through the grapevine that Simone had been furious to discover she was not the only one, that there had been other women before her. The perfect romance Derek had promised her was revealed as just another manipulation. Nia felt no satisfaction in Simone's suffering. She felt nothing about Simone at all. She had her own life to build. In February, nearly 4 months after serving the papers, they reached a settlement. $12 million paid in a lump sum within 60 days. The house would be sold and proceeds split equally. Derek would maintain her health insurance for 3 years. All marital debts would be his responsibility. Nia signed the papers in Patricia's office, her hand steady. How does it feel? Patricia asked when it was done. Like freedom, Nia replied. The divorce was finalized in March, 8 months after Nia found that invitation in the foyer. She was officially Nia Reynolds again, no longer bound to Derek Sterling in any way. She bought the condo in Fittler Square, the one she had fallen in love with months earlier. She furnished it simply but beautifully with bright colors and lots of natural light. Every morning she woke up in her own space, answering to no one, and felt grateful. The Bridges Foundation grew. With $3 million from the settlement set aside as an endowment, Nia had sustainable funding to expand programs. She hired a full-time staff member. She opened tutoring centers in 3 neighborhoods. She partnered with 5 schools. The impact was measurable. Students who went through her program showed significant improvement in reading levels. Teachers reported increased confidence and engagement. Parents expressed gratitude for the support. Nia was making a difference. Real, tangible, meaningful difference. And she was doing it on her own terms, answerable to no one but herself and the kids she served. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, Nia stood in her office at the Bridges Foundation headquarters, looking at the acceptance letter from the state education department. They wanted to partner with her foundation to develop a statewide literacy intervention model. "This is huge," Tasha said, reading over her shoulder. "If this pilot works, you could scale this across the entire state." Nia still had moments where she could not quite believe this was her life. A year ago she had been isolated, dependent, invisible. Now she ran a growing nonprofit, spoke at conferences, advised policymakers, and made decisions that affected hundreds of children. The transformation was not without challenges. She still had moments of doubt, times when Derek's voice echoed in her head telling her she was not capable, not qualified, not enough. Therapy helped. Dr. Williams, her therapist, had worked with her on recognizing manipulation tactics and rebuilding self-trust. "You've done remarkable work," Dr. Williams told her in one session. "Not just professionally but emotionally. You've processed trauma, rebuilt your identity, and created something meaningful from pain. That takes extraordinary strength." Nia had also rebuilt her relationships. Her mother visited regularly now, proud of the daughter who had found her way back to herself. Her sister, who Nia had lost touch with during the marriage, became one of her closest confidants again. "I was so worried about you," her sister admitted during one visit. "You seem to shrink every year with him. It's good to see you taking up space again." Taking up space. Nia liked that phrase. She was no longer trying to make herself smaller to fit Derek's vision of an acceptable wife. She was expansive, ambitious, unapologetically herself. Her social life expanded too. She reconnected with old friends from college and teaching. She made new friends through foundation work. She joined a book club and a professional women's networking group. She said yes to invitations instead of making excuses. Dating was not on her radar yet. Maybe someday, but right now she was content being alone. Or rather, content being with herself. There was a difference. Alone had once meant isolated and lonely. Now it meant independent and free. One evening in early June, Nia received an invitation to the Philadelphia Education Alliance's summer gala. It was the same organization where she had spoken 9 months earlier, the night that changed everything. "You're invited as an honored guest," the letter read. "We'd love to feature the Bridges Foundation's success story." Nia accepted immediately. This felt like closing a circle. The gala was at a different venue this time, an outdoor event at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Nia wore a vibrant green dress and arrived early, confident and comfortable. She mingled easily, no longer nervous about being in these spaces. She belonged here now, not as someone's wife but as herself. Education leaders knew her name. Donors sought her out. She had earned her place. Derek was not there. She had heard through mutual acquaintances that he had moved to New York, supposedly to focus on business opportunities there but really to escape the damage to his reputation in Philadelphia. Simone had moved to California. Their affair had ended badly as Nia had predicted it would. She felt no satisfaction in their misery. She barely thought about them at all. They were part of her past, and her present was too full and too bright to waste time looking backward. During the evening program, Nia was called to the stage to accept an award for educational innovation. As she stood at the podium looking out at the crowd, she thought about the journey that brought her here. She thought about the girl from North Philadelphia who became a teacher because she wanted to make a difference. About the woman who fell in love and lost herself. About the desperate months of planning her escape. About the moment she stood in front of Derek in her red gown and reclaimed her power. And she thought about the future. The programs she would develop. The students she would help. The impact she would make. "Thank you for this recognition," she said into the microphone. "But the real success belongs to the students. To kids like Brianna, who was convinced she couldn't read until someone took the time to teach her differently. To kids who just need someone to see them, believe in them, and give them the tools to succeed. That's what the Bridges Foundation is about. And we're just getting started. The applause was generous. Nia stepped off the stage and was immediately surrounded by people wanting to talk, to partner, to support her work. Later, standing at the edge of the terrace overlooking the city lights, Tasha found her. Happy? Tasha asked. Nia considered the question. Was she happy? Yes, but more than that. She was fulfilled. She was purposeful. She was free. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, Nia said. Doing exactly what I'm meant to do. You're inspiring, you know that? What you've built from nothing, it's incredible. Not from nothing, Nia corrected gently. I always had this in me. Derek just convinced me I didn't. Getting free meant remembering who I was before him. And becoming someone even stronger. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city sparkle below them. Nia thought about the invisible wife she had been, hidden away in a mansion, convinced her only value was in being married to a successful man. That woman was gone. In her place stood someone who knew her worth, who built her own success, who lived on her own terms. Someone who had turned pain into purpose. Someone who had survived betrayal and emerged victorious. Someone who no longer needed a husband to validate her existence. Nia Reynolds was finally, completely, beautifully free. And the best part? This was just the beginning. The foundation would grow. She would help more students. She would continue learning, evolving, building. She would continue taking up space. And she would never, ever make herself small for anyone again. As the gala wound down and guests began departing, Nia lingered a few more moments. She breathed in the warm June air, felt the gentle breeze, listened to the city sounds. Tomorrow she would wake up in her own home. She would go to her office and work on programs that mattered. She would have lunch with Tasha and dinner with her mother. She would read before bed and fall asleep content. She would live her life on her own terms. The fairy tale she had chased with Derek had been a lie. But this life she had built for herself? This was real. This was hers. This was everything. And that was the happiest ending she could have asked for.